Okay, I see we're live. Welcome, everybody. We're on the August 11th Bluffton Town Council meeting. I think all of council is present. If we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and forgive me, Kim, who has invocation? Kim? Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry about that. I was muted. Fred has prayer.
Okay. Fred, you have, Mayor Pro Tem, you have the prayer.
Pray. Let us pray. Most merciful and heavenly Father, we come now asking for your wisdom to guide us through this meeting for our town council and our community. Father, I ask that you bless each and every one of our hearts and towns so that the things that we say and do may be pleasing in your sight. Decisions we make may be for the better of our community. These and all other blessings in your son Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Moving on to the adoption of the agenda. And thank you, Kim. Mr. Orlando, any changes on the agenda?
Yes, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. A removal of formal item number 1 based upon the applicant's request.
Okay. Is anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so there's a request. Mark wants to remove item 9, section 9, no, formal item 11, formal items number 1. With that removal, no other changes. Is there a motion to accept the amended agenda?
So move.
There's second.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor state by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Next, we have minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes. One was the emergency meeting minutes of June 30th. If there are no changes, is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
I got Bridget. Who was the other one? Who other? Larry seconded. Any discussion? All in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. And the second set of minutes were our regular meeting minutes of July 14th. If there are no changes, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Item number 6, presentations, celebrations, and recognitions. This is a much faster version of a very important night when we usually have our seniors come in a little bit before council for the Community Service Award. Kim has already mailed them their certificate and a letter of congratulations. And these are all seniors and juniors and sophomores. And I'm sure the list would have been longer had we not had to go to virtual learning the first part of the year. So I'm going to read their names, their high school and how many hours, and their level. I don't have their grade, but I'm sure we'll see some of these back next year. All of these, the first names are from May River High School. Liz Iglesias, 137 hours, and she was at the exceptional level. Ashley Dollar, 123 hours at the exceptional level. Ella DeSario, 110 hours at the exceptional level, and Emma Drury, 106 hours at the exceptional level. The remaining of the May River students were in the gold level, and that's Addison Black with 54 hours. Grace Hahn was 70.5 hours. Cassandra Johnson, 86 hours. Lillian Long, 51 hours. Becca Ossenfort, 51 hours. Brittany Fingelstad, 60 hours. Ava Wilson, 70 hours. Fatima Alarcon, 71.5 hours. Lila Delbos, 71.5 hours. Adeline DeWig, 56 hours. Ellie McMahon, 50 hours. Gustavo Medina, 50 hours. We have a student from Bluffton that goes to St. Vincent's Academy, Anastasia Marie Toller, and she had the silver level at 50 hours. From Bluffton High School, all gold level, Brele Larson at 68.5 hours. David Chacon at 65 hours. Matthew Shelburne at 53 hours. And then we had a Bluffton resident who's being homeschooled, and it was at the exceptional level. And that was Jade Wilson with 120 and 3/4 hours. So still a great number of students. I think they had a lot against them with school closing and guidance counselors not getting information. We'll be very flexible, and we will absolutely add any upcoming sophomores, juniors, and seniors on the list if they can get us their hours. But congratulations on behalf of council. Very proud of giving back to your town. And for those seniors, just best of luck next year. Next, we have communications from mayor and council. And I don't see anyone on my phone. I'm trying to get connected to my computer. Is there any conversation or communications from anyone on council? Hearing none, we have public comment.
Public comment. We've got 3 public comments tonight.
You're up, Kim.
Okay, waiting on the timer from,
I know, I'm trying to connect here. I think I have it this time, hopefully.
all right. Anata Topaland, 23 Dove Tree Lane. My wife and I are residents of the town of Bluffton for the last 6 years. One of the attractions of Bluffton to us is the way trees and foliage are used in commercially developed properties. It is attractive and not an eyesore of vegetationless concrete and asphalt jungle appearance, so characteristic of the dense urban and suburban areas of the Northeast and Midwest. However, in the last 2 to 3 years, permits are being given out that kills the bucolic environment of Bluffton. For example, Walmart Plaza, the clear-cut eyesore of the storage building on Buckwalter Parkway, and the new medical building that is going up on the parkway. I think the last one missed another inch of a building to the sidewalk. I'm just appalled that whoever is responsible for handling the permits must have no idea how they're destroying the appearance of Bluffton. Please stop clear-cutting the trees and bushes on the property and don't be beholden of the developers, some of whom are outside investors that have no concern about the town or its permanent residents. Next comment is Kevin Quat, 57 Calhoun Street, Bluffton. I commend you for attempting to address short-term rentals in our town, and I have 3 concerns that I feel warrant a rejection of the proposed ordinance amendment. Number 1, if only one unit may be short-term rented, can the other be long-term rented? I do not think it is within the scope of this council to define the number of units that may have a specific use post-construction. 2, life safety of the owner, guests, and visitors who stay in the rental should be the priority. And 3, the building department is tasked with making sure compliance for specific use of a space is achieved, and this use should be treated no differently than any other. Is renting an accessory dwelling unit or the main house of a single-family home considered a business? According to Alvery versus United States 302 F.2D 790, owning rental property qualifies as a business if you do it to earn a profit and work at it regularly and continuously. Example, Edwin Curfey personally managed his rentals, which included seeking new tenants, supplying furnishings, and cleaning and otherwise preparing the units for new tenants. The court held that these activities were sufficiently regular and continuous to place him in the business of real estate rental. Pertinent information. Any business in the town limits requires a business license and a visit from the town's building department to ensure the safety of the operators, visitors, and operation. For a business of this type, a transient rental, the following items are of major concern for me that a transient guest may need to not be familiar with, and that the proposed certification processes should not place the owner of the property or business rather than the town to ensure compliance. 1, emergency escape windows, sized properly for ingress, inspected yearly, operable, painted, clearly identified. 2, fire extinguisher, tagged and inspected yearly. 3, electrical panel location with clearly labeled breakers. 4, exit signs with emergency lights based on the size of the property. 5, carbon dioxide alarm if gas is present. 6, smoke alarm inside and outside each dwelling space tied together. And 7, sprinkler system. In conclusion, the proposed amendment does not adequately address the safety of the property owner who may reside on the same property, either in the accessory unit or the main unit, nor the visitors and guests. The fire department does not have jurisdiction over the single-family rental, and the building department would not have any jurisdiction unless a complaint or permit application were filed. We must follow our mission to take care of our citizens, the town, and each other by continuously making our community and organization better. The business license procedure should require the property to be inspected by the building department and confirm the safety standards for the type of use of the property for all concerned. The proposed certification process fails to adequately address essential life safety concerns and violates Chapter 9 of the 2018 South Carolina Building Code, specifically F 903.2.8 Group R. And finally, Joni Hayward, 95 Boundary Street. Realizing the growth potential of Old Town, in October 2005, our leaders brought town government and town citizens together to create a plan for Old Town. The purpose of the gathering was to obtain from the citizens a vision for Old Town. The citizens spoke and the Old Town Master Plan was written. It was an exciting time in Bluffton. Some of you participated in this process. The document begins on page 1.2 by saying, nestled along the banks of the May River, the Old Town Bluffton is treasured by residents and businesses alike for its natural beauty and unique physical character. It continues, the Old Town Master Plan is intended to provide a blueprint for future infill development in the Old Town that reflects the eclectic character of the area and a sustainable pattern of settlement. This same quote is carried forward in the UDO 5.15.1. Taking this lead, precedent has been set for the Old Town with the Gigi's building of 4,400 square feet, the Pearl of 3,060 square feet, and the Children's Boutique structure of 3,600 square feet. These structures are well below the 8,000 square foot maximum allowed in the UDO. They respected the Old Town Master Plan. All of this being said, I ask you, the Bluffton Town Council, to take the steps necessary to change the UDO maximum square footage allowed in the Old Town from 8,000 square feet to an average of the precedent-setting structures. I suggest this change would only be for the Old Town area, roughly from Pritchard Street to Hayward Street and from the May River to May River Road. Development is important and encouraged, but we must respect our history and heritage, so well stated in the Old Town Master Plan on page 1.2. The town strives to achieve economic vitality through development and redevelopment while ensuring that Bluffton's community character and historical heritage are preserved. Let me thank you in advance for your consideration of this UDO change that is so very important to our historical heritage. That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
All right, public comment is over. Mark, is that something the UDO of any of your edits that you are looking at?
It's not some of the current edits in terms of building types and square footage in that regard, but I've met with Heather today and we've gone over a ton of growth management policy initiatives. And I know that she's already added this item to her, to the items she's working on. So with council's head nod, she'll keep working in that direction.
And then on the last comment, talking about short-term rentals, we did that last month, and help me remember, is that coming back to us again, or was that already voted on?
Yes, last month we worked through a public workshop with the town council, and I believe Heather is aiming for first reading either in September or October.
Okay, just wanted to know where we were on timing. Okay. Public comment is over. As I said, we're on to the public hearing and final reading of 3 items. And we will start with item number 1, which is the consideration on amendments to the Town of Bluffton Code of Ordinances, Chapter 5. Second and final reading. I will open this up for public comment at the for this public hearing. Is there any, Kim, for this one item?
No, none for this one.
So first, second, and third call for public comment. There are none that were submitted. This is second and final reading. Heather, was there any change from first to second?
Yes, actually, there was one minor change I experienced from the last storm event last weekend. Almost use this as an example of how would we apply this if this had already been approved. And the recommended change that I would like to present is simply when now emergency conditions, when those site standards go into place. Originally, that was stated that it was at the issuance of a warning, which is typically 36 hours ahead of a storm. And staff would propose, and I would propose that that be changed to when a watch is issued, and that provides some more time for staff and the developers and site contractors to be prepared. So that's typically issued at 48 hours prior to a storm event.
Any questions of council on that request? I'm glad you were able to go through it and kind of test it. Anyone from council have any issues with that, or comments or questions? Okay, if none, with that change, this is second and final reading. Is there a motion to pass on second reading the consideration on amendments to the Town of Bluffton Code of Ordinances, Chapter 5, which is construction site property maintenance and site prep for severe weather events with that one change?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor state by saying aye.
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 Opposed? That's unanimous. So number 2, public hearing and final reading, consideration of an approval of an ordinance to amend the Belfair Planned Unit Development text to amend proposed uses to add the use additional hospital clinic to the list of permitted uses. Is there public comment during this public hearing, Kim?
No, not for this one.
Okay, so first, second, and third call for public comment. There is no public comment. And we're at Kevin. Any changes from first to second?
No, ma'am.
Were there any questions of council on this? If not, on second and final reading, is there a motion to approve the ordinance to amend the Belfair Planned Unit Development text to amend proposed uses to add the use animal hospital or clinic to the list of permitted uses within the neighborhood commercial portion of the Belfair Unit Development Concept Plan?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Finally, on public hearing and final reading, we have consideration of an ordinance to amend the Town of Bluffton Code of Ordinances, Chapter 23, Article 5. And this is general standards related to historic district architectural design and lot sizes. Kim, are there any public comments at this public hearing for item number 3?
We do, and they should be in the waiting room.
And do you have the timer?
Tommy, are they in the waiting room?
Yeah,
Okay,
Okay.
yes.
ready
we have
to
that
admit
timer.
whenever you are.
So if you pull them in, I'll just remind everyone of the amount of, I will just remind of the rules.
Okay. He's coming in now.
Tommy, are they in the waiting room?
Yeah.
I see. And if, so if you pull them in, I'll just remind everyone of the amount of, I will just remind of the rules. Oh, Lord, double.
I
Double.
think it's echoing.
Yes. If you pull in, I'll just remind everyone of the amount of, I was just reminded the rules. Oh,
Mayor,
Lord.
they should,
Double.
Mayor Falco, this is Mark.
Double.
speaking. They should turn down their Facebook Live. You're getting the drawback from the Facebook Live delay, Tommy.
Yes,
Not on Facebook Live.
I think maybe Kevin Quat was on.
Yeah.
Facebook Live.
Okay,
You-
so I was gonna ask who the public comment is from. Can you say who it's from, Kim, and then we'll,
We've got Kevin Quat.
okay. Kevin, if you could give your name, address, and you have 3 minutes, and if you can see it on the screen, if not, I'll kind of wind you down. So if you could state your name and address, and if you have 3 minutes to speak to item number 3.
I think he somehow muted himself.
If you could unmute yourself. Can we see him or no?
Now
Let's
he's on.
see here. Can you hear me?
Yes, name and address, and then you start talking, we'll start the timer.
My name is Kevin Quat, 57 Calhoun Street, and Thank you. Start the timer. Thank you very much for the I can't hear Lisa.
We are here and listening to you.
Oh, okay. I had muted my.
Can we stop?
Oh, I
that
see.
now,
There's.
Scott? Kevin, you've got to turn your Facebook Live off while you're on.
I did. I
Okay.
did. We're good. I just saw you talking and I couldn't hear you talking, so it's because of the delay. So we're good.
Good.
Sorry. Thank you. First time. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you guys. I did submit obviously the public comment for this item, but I thought it would be relevant to just share that I'm coming at this not from what would affect me, because obviously I short-term rent a unit or two at times, but truly when I'm at a vacation rental, I do not know the property. And in the middle of the night, smoke detectors going off, batteries low, if there's an issue, a lot of accessory dwelling units are on the second floor, often above a car, a garage. In my case, there's one that's above 2 AC compressors, and in the property that I have at Calhoun, and God forbid there was an explosion of some sort, the person up there would have no knowledge of it. And while we have a good plan to sort of start this dialogue with having a third-party independent inspection done, the earnest is on the owner, and the standards are truly a minimum that I don't think is safe. I don't think it's in compliance with the IRC, the International Building Code. Someone might argue that the residential building code would apply for single-family residential. I get that. Residential building code does speak to the occupancy type R3 and R2, and it also speaks to occupancy types of R being requiring a sprinkler. Having the public onto private property, just like when you have a store, it has to be safe for them. And we have people who aren't going to know where the breakers aren't going to know the ingress and egress, and truly could find themselves in a situation where the fire extinguisher is super old. You know, we have the building department for a specific purpose to make sure that the use that someone wants to do is appropriate. And I think it's pretty clear that a business license is needed, a retail license is needed to be able to file your transient room tax and with the state, the accommodations tax. And as far as the business license, it is purposefully designed to have a safety check. So while it would affect me, if I wanted to continue to short-term rent, I would have to have this and do upfit. It's truly what's needed. I think it'll also provide a little bit of a cap in how many there are, which may be beneficial, may be something for the town to consider. But at the end of the day, if somebody is...
Kevin, your time's up, and I wanted you to finish, but the item that's on public hearing is not about short-term rentals. It's on lot sizes. So
Oh, well,
I don't.
I couldn't pull it. I couldn't pull it up. I thought I didn't have it in front of me.
You asked to speak at public hearing on short-term rentals, and that's not on our agenda tonight. Our public.
I thought that was item number 3. I'm sorry.
Lot sizes, but your time is over. It's 3 minutes, and I appreciate it. And I didn't want to stop you because while you were talking, it's something.
Well, I have thoughts on the lot sizes too, but that's fine.
That was the time to do it. I'm
So.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, thank
Thank
you. Public comment is over for the public hearing. And Heather, it's second and final reading. Are there any changes from first to second? And does anyone have any questions?
No, ma'am, there was no additional changes. Simply the only things acknowledged in the second reading were the changes that town council approved as part of their motion, which were that the 50-foot minimum lot width. Apologize for that.
So we
But
have
otherwise,
no
no changes.
Are there any other questions or questions of Heather for this second and final reading? If none, is there a motion to approve on second and final reading the ordinance to amend Town of Bluffton Code of Ordinances, Chapter 23, Article 5, which are general standards related to historic district architectural design and lot sizes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you all. And please remind Kim, Mr. Quat, that he can speak to that public. Is that a public hearing item in September or October? If it is, just remind him.
I will.
Perhaps when it's coming in. Next, our workshop agenda items. First is our action plan to support Dominion Energy periodic tree trimming. Scott, are you doing this?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Right.
Let me unshare that screen and share the right screen. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you know, this has been an item that's been on your minds for a while now. It was identified first at a workshop a couple of years ago in conjunction with strategic planning. But the purpose of this workshop tonight is to get your input on developing some standard operating procedures to support the Dominion Energy tree trimming activities that are going to take place within the town of Bluffton, probably within the next 6 months or so. A little bit of background for you. As I spoke before, formalizing a process for this was identified as a priority in the FY 1920 strategic plan. Dominion Energy, which is formerly SCE&G, performs rights-of-way maintenance and tree trimming on a 5-year cycle. And the last time they performed this maintenance was 5 years ago in 2015. And so in 2020, we are due, and this has become a relevant topic for us to move forward on. Staff contacted the town of Edisto Beach, who we understood had a process in place to provide some oversight of trimming activities with SCE&G. What we found out was there was no formal agreement with SCE&G. However, the town did get some cooperation from them for the use of an ad hoc committee that the town council appointed, and that body followed the trimming crews around and they provided input as they were doing the trimming. The body consisted of representatives from the Edisto Beach Property Owners Association and the Edisto Land Trust. Staff has also been in contact with Dominion Energy staff. Kim Jones has been in contact with them. I have been in contact with them. They have been very responsive to us. We do know that maintenance is tentatively scheduled for the November-December timeframe, but it may possibly be pushed later than that to early 2021. We are assured that Dominion Energy will provide ample notice of activity, and they have promised us that they will meet with town staff as needed prior to beginning work. And what I'm going to show you next is a map that Dominion Energy has provided to the town that shows where their trimming route is. So that gives you an example of our representation of where they intend on trimming when they do perform their 5-year maintenance. I'll leave that up for a moment or two. So looking at the Edisto Beach model, the recommendation from the staff for council to consider this evening is to provide direction for putting together oversight using members of the beautification committee or appointing an ad hoc committee of stakeholders that council identifies, or a combination of A and B. And there's some good reasons for that. One of the charter tasks of the beautification committee is to take on activities on an ad hoc basis just like this. So the next step of this process is determine what your will is with regard to providing oversight for this activity and working with Dominion Energy. And then pending your direction, staff will draft a formal standard operating procedure for your consideration, and we'll bring that back to you in a formal manner for your approval. And we will assist as needed in recruiting or assembling an oversight committee for you. And we will also continue to maintain liaison with Dominion Energy regarding any scheduled rights of way trimming activity, and we will keep you informed throughout the process.
Any suggestions for Scott on this?
Mayor, I have one. I think we should inquire about their herbicide policy and use. I don't know what their intentions are, whether they're going to use herbicide in the city limits of Bluffton or not. A lot of times what a utility will do is a lot of them, after they cut, they spray. And, you know, when you have low level plant life, that's one thing when you spray, but when it grows up to a certain point, then you spray it, you see dead trees and shrubs all over the place. Just something to inquire about.
Right.
Plus you have to think about bodies of water and stuff like that.
Right. Maybe of some value in the staff report itself is attachment 1 from not SCNG, there we go again, Dominion Energy. And it's a handout from them on tree pruning and vegetation management. And it speaks to the use of herbicides. That being said, Councilman Wood, we will definitely inquire with them about their intended use of herbicide within town limits when they come to do their trimming, and we'll get back with you on an answer to that.
I'll jump into Dan. I've seen it happen and they haven't let us know. And a lot of it's down Buck Island and Simmonsville the last time. And now they're back at that route. I think they hand trim and they don't use it at all. All those ditches go straight to the river, and all those roads are in communities with our residents that really didn't like it. So we need a harsher hand on that. I'm fine for any kind of committee, and I would love for the mayor of Edisto said it went wonderfully well with the committee. They were right there. They took it on, like they took ownership of it, and maybe see where they had issues, you know, where they were able to help and where they had to stand their ground. So I'd be curious to think how it happened since Dominion's been in place. Anyone else have suggestions for Scott? He pretty much laid it out pretty clean.
Yeah, the only other part is be sure you talk with both utilities.
Did you hear that, Scott?
Yes, I did. We'll reach out to Palmetto as well.
Fred, were you about to say something?
Yes.
Okay.
If we're going to have an ad hoc or liaison committee, who would brief them on the do's and don'ts?
We would confer with Dominion Energy first on what their policies were, and we would also express the concerns of council, especially with regard to the use of herbicide and the over trimming that in previous workshops I've heard that was a concern. And so we'll express those concerns as well. And through the standard operating procedure, we will develop some general guidelines that the committee will utilize, and then we'll also lean on the expertise of our engineering staff as well.
Okay, so when you say we, you're talking about staff would have some. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sir.
I know we all have lived here for several, if not all of their tree trimmings. This is a really second to even going down the rest of May River Road outside the town. We're gonna get called. This is going to be drastic because I think some of the trees can't be shaped as a U too much longer. So we need to stand our ground and push it a little bit, or be prepared, because I'm just looking at your map you had in there, and it's just very important streets, all of them. They're all residential areas, and we're going to see a lot of U's cut out, and they do not have an arborist with them. So I hope on top of that, we have somebody that can really.
Actually, you may be delighted to know they do have an arborist now. The individual that we're working with, who is their chief forester for this area, is actually a certified arborist. And so we do take some comfort in knowing that they do have an arborist on staff now, and he is very aware of our concerns, and I think probably sensitive to them as well.
Is it just gonna be one crew doing it, or is he gonna have to run around from like 2 or 3 crews to make sure, because the people who are cutting are not arborists?
Right. Totally. He and I have spoken about that there will be several crews, and he intends to give them very specific direction.
Another question, Scott. Normally when we realize there's a problem, it's because they already cut the trees. So we don't have any way of addressing it if the trees is already cut, and then we go back and say we don't like the way you cut it. So how can we protect ourselves or let them know that they when they cut a tree that there's some kind of penalty for that?
Well, that's a very good question, Councilman Hamilton, and I will speak to the arborist / forester about that. They do have certain minimum clearance areas that they have to clear when they're going around these power lines, and that's for not only for everyday safety, but to decrease the opportunity for power outages during storms. So it's a very delicate balance, but we'll examine what those standards are, and when we bring the SOP back to you, we can address those standards specifically with you. I believe it's in some of your handouts in your staff report, but I would definitely put that in my presentation when I bring it back to you, so you know exactly what the clearance areas are around the foliage.
And I would not let them do it on a weekend if we're not gonna have staff available at the drop of a hat. I think they need to do it within working hours, not to put us out. I'm nervous about it, and I don't know Dominion. I knew SCE&G and wasn't really happy. And after talking to other councils at municipal associations, we just don't seem to stand our ground the way others have done, and they seem okay with it. Not happy, but I don't think we've ever been happy unless somebody tells me different.
I think this is an opportunity for us to change that tide a little bit, and hopefully we can put together a body with your help that will help oversee that process, and we'll get a better result this time.
I don't want to be that mayor that says they're going to tie up around a tree, because we had a mayor to do that, but you might have all the council in a mayor.
I have a question, Mayor.
Yes, Mrs. Frazier.
So in going back to what Fred was talking about, in the sense of, is it possible that we can get some type of layout or idea ahead of time of the plans of the trees they're planning on cutting? And in looking at using our beautification committee, can we maybe bring in some folks from like the BIS committees to see if they would be interested in this process? As you mentioned, and I know that a lot of people were upset off of the way that they did the process before, particularly on those roads.
Oh, I thought you were going to answer that, Mayor. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, I was looking at the map. Let me jump in. Is Simmonsville more so than Buck Island this time? And I'm trying to see if it's going down, and it's Gothy. I would really, on a hybrid, I would look at maybe if there were some people you're thinking on those two. Buck Island is kind of, it really isn't that much. It goes to Kitty Road and stops.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all of Simmonsville and Gothy from like 9th all the way past the Parkway on the other side. And then it's all of the other streets, Pritchard, May River Road, Boundary. It's all of the streets in Old Town up to Hayward Street. And then those two long streets are the ones that I think we should ride down there and make our own notes and get it to Scott on areas we're concerned about, because you can see the trees that they've cut in the past pretty easily. And maybe we need to help him with some areas that are hot spots.
Right.
I do think that would be very helpful if you could identify the areas that council and citizens from your experience before with this, that they're more concerned about. We can share those particular areas with the forester as being sensitive areas, and maybe a little extra care and consideration to be taken when trimming in those areas.
Well, let's give Scott some names. I think we do need to utilize the beautification committee. You just don't know who has the time, because it'll be an all-day event every day, certain areas. So maybe you can kind of have a tag team of people and they can figure out the quadrants of areas that they're responsible for with staff's support. Any other thoughts to Scott?
Well, perhaps we'll bring back a recommendation to you with an SOP that includes members of the beautification committee, in addition to other members of the community that you may choose to appoint.
Okay.
And I'm sorry.
Do I hear it later?
Yeah.
Okay.
Could I ask just one question? Hypothetically, the power companies have I guess, the rights or whatever to cut back so many feet from any existing power line or power pole. So if we could identify the places that are, you know, critical, I would think we could do that beforehand. And like Scott said, bring those out and put a marker there or something. But for the most part of it, they're hiring these companies to come and they're going to cut at least the minimal, you know, whether, what is it, Dan, 5 feet, 10 feet? I know there's a certain.
Depends on the clearance, it could be up to 15, 20. The other thing is, obviously, they've got a mandate to keep the electricity flowing. So I think what we're really talking about here is maybe do what you need to do, but don't do any more than what you need to do.
Yeah, I agree.
I totally agree. And Dan, I mean, you've got the expertise in that, and it'd be good if you could ride around and pick a few streets as a sample and kind of give us your thoughts. I'd rather worst case scenario. And when we had the workshop on it, it seemed to calm people a bit, just going out there and doing it, especially after that lady who made a public comment on areas not in our town. We're not responsible for Walmart or the other areas, she said, and this is in and out of the town limit. So I just think the more preparation, the better.
Right, because I don't think the issue would be anyone wanting to stop Dominion from doing what they're doing. I just think people are more understanding when they're aware of what's going on, opposed to hearing about it or seeing things after the fact. I think if they can get an idea of what it is and how it's going to look, I think they'd be on board with it.
And the minimum, and I love what Dan,
Right.
the minimum that they can do. So
I think if we can minimize the aesthetic shock value once they complete, we'll have a good outcome.
I agree. It's just an important part. It's our.
Council, I got a lot of calls from citizens or residents that thought that it was their tree that got destroyed. So, you know, if they're going, for an example, I went in and witnessed a couple of trees. They pretty much took the whole top off, so it was a naked tree.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's like that, why shouldn't maybe the whole tree should have been removed instead of just leaving the tree with one branch on it?
I remember that. I remember it.
In that case, Fred, it should have been. I mean, obviously, I used to do this professionally, and you know, but again, I'm sure they have right-of-way easements which encompass the width of the easement that they have a right to cut in. A lot of times, portion of the easement falls into highway right-of-way. The other portion of it falls onto the property owners. So that's really the only area that they're allowed to cut in, and not go outside the scope of that. But again, I think if we make the effort to find ahead of time and look at some areas that are sensitive to us, we can possibly avoid that.
One of the things we're a lot better at than we were 5 years ago is communicating as a town about what we're doing. So one of the things we can also do to help mitigate the entire shock value of the process is to communicate what the plan is for cutting ahead of time and what the expectations are with regard to what could be cut, what can't be cut, where it's going to be cut, and those types of things. So if a citizen's driving down you know, Persimmon Street or another area that's being cut and they see it cut and nobody told them it was going to happen, it's a much bigger shock than if you knew trimming was going to take place and why trimming was going to take place. It's an education process also. You know, it's done to mitigate power loss during storms. It's done to contribute to safety measures during every day and the occasional storms that we get and those types of things. So we can help communicate all those messages, and we can provide an education component to it as well.
And you know,
Scott, sorry, Mayor.
No, you go on. I'll wait.
I was going to say one last item on that too is, and again, I think they're in a more urban area, and I know some of the mistakes that one of the companies made on Buck Island, Simmonsville years ago won't make them again. But if they drop a tree somewhere on the edge, peripheral edge of the right of way. One question is what do they do with it? Are they going to chop it up and haul it off? Or are they going to, leave portions of it? You need clarity on that, where the property owner comes out there and they see, half of a tree laying there on the ground and the right of way company left it. These little fine things that just need to be talked about.
Right. Yep. That's definitely a good point and a good question. And we can put together a list of frequently asked questions that would include that and others, Mr. Wood. So that's a good point.
And ditto on that, I won't repeat it, but we need to let them know, like Fred mentioned it, Pritchard Street had one and Buck Island. I remember exactly where they were, and 8 feet of tree without any limbs were left. If they're going to get to that point, staff needs to know it's got to be removed. They just can't leave a stump. And it was an 8 to 12 foot stump tree. So we'll look at all that in your next presentation, and we'll deal with it. Anyone else? Great feedback. I think everyone's very aware and the memories are very deep. So
I appreciate the feedback very much, and we'll bring it back to you in plenty of time before the trimming takes place.
Okay.
To have an approved SOP in place, and we'll move forward, and we'll have better results than we did 5 years ago.
Okay. Okay. We'll see you later. Next is on a workshop item, discussion and presentation of Beaufort County impact fee study and proposal, and Eric Greenway is somewhere in our Zoom world, I think. Yes, he is. Somewhere. I saw him and then I didn't. Did he get off? Oh, there he is. Eric, are you on with us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, we see you. Absolutely. Are you going to need a screen share of any type, or does everyone?
I'm getting ready to share it right now whenever you are ready.
Okay, we're ready for you.
I'm gonna take, I can take 15 minutes to do this, or 45, whichever you all prefer. So
better than 45.
I thought you would go for the 15 version. So
How about 3, Eric?
anyway.
Or
yeah.
5. Get going. Your clock's ticking, Eric. Thank you for being here tonight.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to do it. Trying to figure out if I can switch my screen here. You all are seeing the, are you all seeing that?
Yes, I see Habersham.
Okay. Well, after many years, first of all, Mayor, Council, I appreciate the opportunity to address you this evening. It's good to see you all, even though it's on camera. You are one of my favorite municipal councils in the area, so it's always a pleasure to see many of you that I deal with quite regularly, and Mark and the team there that you all have in Bluffton. Great team on the Bluffton staff, and I do commend their work, and you all should be proud of the people that you have working for you there. We are finishing up what has essentially become the a major impact fee study and update for Beaufort County. I'm going to walk you through this presentation here. I'm dealing mostly with south of the Broad service areas, but you will see some details about the fees for the north of the Broad as well, just for contextual information. So the presentation will basically be the impact fee overview, and then we'll go through the draft impact fees, and I will talk to you as I go through and answer some of the questions that Heather had sent that you all would like clarified as we go through this presentation. So basically, as we all know, and some of this may be just a review for many of you, an impact fee is a one-time payment that pays for growth-related infrastructure based on items established in a capital improvement plan. It's only paid by new development and not existing residences or businesses unless they do some new type of development. Impact fees fund capital improvements that add capacity. That's very important the add capacity part is very important as we get to the school impact fee discussion and the bond referendum that was approved. So I will talk more detail about that in a little bit. It's not a tax, but an agreement by the governmental entity, in this particular case, the County of Beaufort, to build infrastructure. There are 3 requirements to meet a rational nexus, and this is very important. One is the need test. Growth creates the need for infrastructure. Second, proportionality. Growth pays its fair share of the cost. So it's about finding the balance between what portion of the need for the growth-related infrastructure is paid for by the new growth that is coming in, and the benefit, the growth receives the benefit from the infrastructure. So those are the basic 3 tests that you have to meet in order to establish a rational nexus. Let me say something about this. You'll see at the bottom of the screen that this is, I'm basically doing the Tischler Bice presentation. Probably not as good as they would do, but they are the consultants that did our study and update, and also did the school study with the Beaufort County School District. So impact fee cost, you can use impact fees to pay for facilities and improvements needed to serve new development. You can use it to provide excess capacity in existing facilities, but you cannot use it for maintenance and repairs. You cannot use it for operating costs, and you cannot use it for improvements required to correct existing deficiencies unless there is a comprehensive funding plan for correcting those deficiencies. Back in 2018, Beaufort County went into contract with Tischler Bice to enter into an agreement with them to update the parks and recreation, the libraries, the transportation impact fees, and to do a study for the school impact fee. Since that time, we added public safety, emergency medical services, solid waste to that particular study for them, and also fire to do that update. Public safety, emergency medical services, and solid waste would be new fees at the county level. And of course, the school fee would be a new fee for the school district that the county would collect through an intergovernmental agreement. Currently, we have intergovernmental agreements for transportation with all municipalities participating. Libraries, all municipalities are participating. Parks and Rec, only you all collect on behalf of the county. We do not have any IGAs in place yet for public safety, solid waste, or school. So we will have to do those with you all. You can elect to opt out of collecting those certain fees through intergovernmental agreements if you are providing the service. So it's my understanding that you all may provide for solid waste collection. So I would not think it would be in your interest as a county staffer to enter into an intergovernmental agreement to collect the solid waste fees, but those will be discussed with you all individually at a later date as once we get further along in the adoption process. Is there any questions about intergovernmental agreements? Okay. Feel free to stop me if anybody has any questions as I go through this, because I've got a lot of material to cover very quickly here.
And
So
Aaron, quickly, and do you want us to stop, or I mean, we can also wait till the end too.
It's however you prefer, but I didn't want anyone to feel like they had to wait until the end if they have a burning question that they may forget when I get there. It will not mess me up.
If we have a burning question we can't remember, we will, but it's good to wait till the end if it's okay.
Yeah. Okay. This you're going to see this term incremental and plan-based planning, or how we went about determining, or the consultants went about determining the service level of service needs, and the cost to provide those services. I don't really have a good explanation as to what that means, because again, I'm not the consultant, but it's in the full report that I sent to the staff. so they can share that with you at some point. I should have looked that up today and tried to figure that out. I apologize, but you know, plan-based basically is what it relates to. It's based on a plan for providing the improvements. Incremental is, you know, the improvements are going to occur incrementally as the growth occurs. So essentially, the components of the Parks and Recreation Impact Fee analysis included regional parkland improvements, community parkland improvements, neighborhood parkland improvements, and recreation centers. The service area for the regional parks was county-wide. All other facilities, we have 2 service areas. We have the north of the Broad service area and the south of the Broad service area. So you're going to see that terminology a lot more in the next several slides as I go through and continue with the presentation. So all of these numbers basically break down into the point of what you see in the green column down at the bottom. So over on the right-hand side, left-hand side of my screen, you see the north of the Broad service area. Over on the right, you see the south of the Broad service area. You see the housing unit size. And then across that, you see the maximum supportable fee per unit. And then in the very last column, if it's black, it's an increase in the fee. If it's red, it's a decrease in that particular fee for that particular square footage of residential unit. I'm not going to go through all those numbers for you, but I will give you all a chance to absorb that in case you have any questions.
Maybe that is a question, a stopping point, because I think unless you're going to speak to affordable housing, Eric, is this a time maybe we can speak to just our suggestions on something like this? Or are you going to talk about affordable housing?
I will talk about affordable housing very briefly at the very end.
Okay.
And it might be good. I'm going to show you a chart at the very end that has all the fees and the changes on one chart. So you'll be able to see how all the impact fees impact the total fee payment for each square footage of house at the very end. So,
Do y'all want to wait? I was just thinking of Fred's committee and Dan's on it. It's interesting. Your prices have gone down south of the Broad when they were much higher before, but I'll let them ask. And I have a question on your square footages. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to really get to the affordable housing part.
Okay. Kind of just a thought on south of the Broad, you know, I really would rather see the lesser square footages have even less fees and even the higher ones be more equal to what you have on north of the Broad. But it's just a comment, and we can put all these in a letter back to you, Eric, if you want this more workshop for us to know. But it's just one comment on that one page.
I understand. Yeah, it would be great for you to provide, and I'm sure you are going to have comments on a lot of these fees and the way they're structured and questions that I may not be able to answer today, but if you'll get those to me, I'll get answers from our consultant, and I'm going to walk you through the approval schedule here later on as well.
Okay. Okie dokie.
So essentially what you see in the red box up to the right hand of the screen there is the projected revenue and the total expenditures. This is for south of the Broad, and how much of the general fund share will have to come out of providing the services are necessary to provide parks and recreation services. So basically what that says is that, you know, we're going to raise $3.5 million over the next 10 years in parks and rec impact fees. We expect to spend 6.8. So there's going to be a $3 million gap that's going to have to be funded through some other mechanism.
Is that because of the new fees? Was it better? Were you making more off the old fees?
That I can't answer. I would imagine so, since the fees were higher, but the higher fees aren't supportable because of the capital improvements plan that we have and various other factors that went into that calculation.
Okay.
Eric, just one question to clarify this. When you're saying south of the Broad, this is not including Hilton Head, correct?
This would be the entire service area south of the Broad. If Hilton Head provides their own park and rec facilities, it would not include them.
Which I think they do, right? Or they're going.
That's questionable. I wouldn't know the answer to that.
I don't know that they do. I think they're trying to negotiate that.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's my understanding as well, Mr. Wood.
Thank you.
So library impact fees, again, library branches and bookmobiles are things that we can fund with impact fees. The library branches, again, north and south of the Broad service areas, bookmobiles were calculated on a countywide service need. Again, you see on the right, on the left-hand side of the screen, the north of the Broad service area numbers, and on the right-hand side, the south of the Broad service area. Now, they're same square footage of houses, same black and red numbers. I'll give you a moment to look at that and see if you have any questions about any of that. So I will say this about affordable housing, one of the reasons that we chose to go with the impact fees based on a per square foot basis of the residential unit is because that will help out a little bit with the affordability issue, because presumably, and the statistics support the fact that the smaller the house, the less the impact, the larger the house, the greater the impact. So larger square footages pay more for these various fees going forward. So the next slide, you can see the revenue and the expenditures we expected to collect in the next 10 years, $3,360,000 with total expenditures of $3,268,000. So we're well under we're well over our revenue on what we project to expend.
And Eric, you're projecting the potential new library as well in that?
That's correct.
Okay.
Anything that's in our current capital improvement plan and some new projects, we'll have to amend the capital improvement plan with this set of fee adoption. So that would be included, yes. So moving along to public safety, this is a new fee for EMS to provide EMS services. I do not know if, and you don't have to respond to this, I do not know if the town of Bluffton provides its own EMS or if they rely on Beaufort County EMS, but this would be one of those new fees that we would have to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with you all to potentially collect as a part of the fee study and update.
We use county fire and EMS, right?
Okay, all right. So the EMS stations and EMS vehicles, again, it's all based on incremental growth. The service area is county-wide, so there is no north and south of the Broad service area. It's just providing EMS service county-wide is the service area. And basically, you can see here the maximum supportable fee per unit. This will have a commercial component to it, whereas the other ones did not have a commercial component. So the green column again is the maximum supportable fee per unit based on the square footage on residential and per 1,000 square feet based on commercial and retail, office, industrial, or institutional.
I have a question here.
Yes.
So if a fee is going to be assessed by EMS, would they then become a public entity, or would they still operate privately?
Well, the Beaufort County EMS is a public entity. It's operated by Beaufort County already. There are some private transport services out there that I think bill directly to insurance services and all
Right.
that. But these fees would be payable at the time someone requests a building permit and would go to support the capital improvement needs for Beaufort County EMS services.
And they would then operate no different than currently like what a fire department or a police department would, that if someone called and that's a service that would be afforded through these fees and not having to be billed through an insurance company?
Oh, they would still, this basically, so the impact fee again is basically used to provide capital improvements. So new EMS stations, new EMS vehicles, and anything like that is greater than $100,000 to purchase. So the impact fees cover those. It does not cover operations or service levels. So folks would still be billed if they called Beaufort County EMS and would receive a bill for that service. That's separate from this particular fee.
Thank you.
Quick question, Eric. Bridget made me think of this. You said this is countywide, but I think, does EMS and fire, well, it's really EMS. Do they go from one side of the county to the other? I mean, do you see that the calls are equal? Because I would think with the growth on the south of the Broad, we're going to collect most of the money. Is it not some fair and equitable way to, we understand we love our whole county, but are they going to look at the bigger picture encompassing all of EMS fairly on request with this money, since this is a
I think that would be a good question for you to raise in your written questions. I do not know the response to that. Basically, whenever I did this impact fee study update, I coordinated everything, but I did not, I left it up to the individual directors of these various fees, like the library director, EMS director, and things like that, to handle their communications with the consultant. So the basis for a lot of these service areas, I'm not really sure, because I don't know how they operate on a daily basis, but I think that's a point that you might need to have clarified through some sort of written question that we can respond to.
Thank you. I'm writing them down now since I need to do.
Eric,
Yes, sir.
Hilton Head has their own fire department. Does that include EMS that they own?
They have their,
I'm sorry, go ahead, ma'am.
they have their own EMS and fire.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So this is what you see projected revenue over again in the red box is 4 million over the next 10 years. Total expenditures will be 1.5. So that would create a need of 1.3 to be funded through some other source for capital projects over the next 10 years. Public safety and fire, this is kind of complicated, so hang with me here. There's going to be a little bit of nuances to this particular one. Again, the growth plan is incremental on all three items there. We can cover fire station, construction, administration and training facilities we can cover, and fire apparatuses, trucks and various fire fighting equipment. So the service area, previously we had several fire districts and fire service areas that all had their own fee. So essentially we're going down to 2 service areas. We're going to have the north of the Broad service area and then the Bluffton Fire District, which is essentially south of the Broad, covering everything. Hilton Head again provides their own fire. So does Hardyville. So this is the north of the Broad numbers. I'll let you look at those just briefly. You can see they're decreasing until the house size gets up to around 2,000 square feet, and then you start to see an increase. There is a red number right here on a lot of these charts, and that's credit for debt payments. You can't double dip on the impact fee. You can't charge someone for a bond and then also charge them an impact fee on top of that. So you have to issue a credit for that. So whenever you see these red numbers in these charts that says credit for debt payments, that's what that's basically referring to, is to balance out to make sure we don't have people paying twice for the same situation.
Question on that, Eric.
Yes.
So are there areas in our county that aren't bonded for fire needs, or will everyone see that credit?
Everyone will see that credit. for north of the Broad. Bluffton will see this credit, 142 per impact fee paid.
Okay. For the life of the bond, which I'm sure is what, 30 years, or you don't know? Okay.
I don't know.
That's
20,
okay.
I mean, there could be various timeframes on those, but I wouldn't know that kind of detail.
Okay.
So essentially, everything is going up here except for 1,000 square feet or less. And in some cases, it, you know, as you get larger, the fee goes up more significantly. So again, going to the revenue side, projected revenue is $10,200,000 over the 10 years. Total expenditures is $11,200,000. So non-impact fee funding over that 10-year period would have to, about $1 million would have to be covered through non-impact fee funding for the capital improvements for the Bluffton Fire District through some other revenue source. Now, this is where the nuances come in. So the fire chiefs from all the fire districts in Bluffton weighed in on this, and they basically said that they are willing to exempt the fire impact fee if builders provide residential approved sprinkler systems as provided in the International Fire Code. And if they do that, then they would not owe a fire fee. And there is a higher fee for single family dwelling units in excess of 5,000 square feet because those units require advanced equipment and vehicles. So you see the fee equals 2 EDU. So that stands for equivalent dwelling unit. So essentially they're saying that a 5,000 square foot single family unit is the same as basically fighting a fire at two dwellings. So I will go back to the fee chart here for you. And basically you can see that fee would be $1,315 for 4,000 or more. So it would be a significant fire impact fee if the house is over 5,000 square feet.
I don't want to belabor this, but maybe you have the answer to this. So
Okay.
Residential fee exempted on any size home if they have an approved sprinkler system.
That's correct.
Okay. And then the higher, okay, I get that. Okay.
And even if the 5,000 square foot single family units put in a sprinkler fee, that put in an approved sprinkler system, they would be exempt.
Great. Okay.
Our fire chiefs felt so strongly about residential sprinkler systems, they were willing to provide that exemption. Solid waste, again, this is a new fee. Again, I understand that you all may provide solid waste services in town, so this would be something that you would have to decide through an intergovernmental agreement if you want to collect as a result of that. So let me say something about when intergovernmental agreements are required and when they are not. Basically, the state statute on impact fees state that if a municipality annex an area with an impact fee in place at the time of annexation, they either have to provide a mechanism for collecting that fee or provide the service or the revenue for providing the infrastructure needed as a result of that annexation. So if there's areas where you've already annexed and we want to impose a fee, then we need an intergovernmental agreement for you all to collect the fee. So that's very hard to grasp. It's really simple, but it's hard to explain. So essentially, if you annex an area that has a fee, you either have to collect the fee or provide the revenue for that, or provide the infrastructure, cover the infrastructure as a result of the fee. If the fee doesn't exist prior to annexation, then you all have to agree to collect the fee. So again, with solid waste, it's going to cover convenience center construction, solid waste vehicles in excess of $100,000. So basically for convenience centers, the service areas north of the Broad, south of the Broad, solid waste vehicles is countywide because again, those do travel all throughout the county and they are not segregated to just one area. So going back to the dual charts now. So on the left-hand side, we have north of the Broad service area. On the right-hand side, we have south of the Broad service area. I'll give you a chance to absorb those fees.
Okay.
And then this is what it looks like from a revenue standpoint. Projected revenue would be a little over $400,000 with total expenditures of being $372. So non-impact fee funding for those capital improvements would not be necessary. The big ones, this one's probably going to generate a lot of discussion, and Mr. Orlando and Mr. Eichert and Ms. Collin will need to pay attention to this to make sure we've got all the transportation projects in there. Because again, I allowed the individuals that deal with these things on a more regular basis than I do to provide the project list and things like that. So I do know you all submitted projects. I think we got them all in there, but this is going to be something where I'm going to need you all to weigh in on after the presentation to make sure that we did cover everything that you all thought we should cover. So again, the transportation improvements in this particular case are plan-based. It's based on the capital improvement plans that we have and be provided over time. It's 2 service areas north of the Broad, south of the Broad. This is the project list for south of the Broad. I'll give you a chance to look through those because I'm sure you're going to want to absorb all of those projects in the amounts.
Well, I already don't see the remaining parkway that was on the last penny.
I noticed that as well.
Yeah. And I think we've got to be proactive and do 5B, but also where it connects to Hardyville, it's somehow, I don't know if we have a map on that, but we need to add that. And you know, this would be really good with a map showing this, or you'll give us this presentation, won't you, Eric, so we can map it ourselves?
Yeah, I'll send it to you. And that there's a lot more detail. The total presentation that the consultants do is about 45 minutes long. So there's a lot of detail in the full presentation. I will send you the full presentation so you all can see population numbers and how everything was calculated. In addition, I've provided to staff the impact fee studies for these areas that have the full details of the study in there. And they may have included maps. I do not know. I doubt it. I don't know if any maps are provided, but yeah, we'll provide this to you.
That'd be great.
And I did see the parkway issue. I do know Mr. Orlando raised that during a municipality meeting. I thought we had provided that information to them and had on the list, but it would be certainly something that I think you all might want to provide in your comments. So basically all these projects equal a cost per vehicle miles traveled of $148.21, which essentially equates to the following chart. That's for the north of the Broad. You all are not interested in that too much. You can see north of the Broad, transportation fees drop. This is south of the Broad. So you see a drop for 1,000 square feet or less on a house, and also for 15 to 1750, it drops by $56. You see a drop in retail and office and institutional, but everything else is an increase, and I'll let you absorb that.
Okay. I think we'll need more than just this presentation to absorb all of them. So
I
as
know,
long
we'll
as we can get a copy of it, you can probably go on.
Yeah, we'll send it to you again.
Okay.
this is going to be one of the more complicated things that we're going to need to make sure we get right. This particular item and the school impact fee is probably going to be the thing that generates the most discussion going forward, as I would imagine. So essentially, you can see all those projects will generate a total revenue of 37 million, with expenditures right around 38 million. That creates a non-impact fee funding amount of $900,000 that had to be paid for with other items.
Yeah, let me ask about these numbers real quick. So this is out till what period of time? 2030?
Yeah, it goes out 10 years, 2030.
Okay, so I guess you factored future inflation costs and everything into all of this?
The impact fee ordinance allows us to increase and decrease the impact fees per year based on the construction price index. So it has been factored in, but not into the particular numbers. It'll increase or decrease based on that CPI.
I mean, the reason I ask is there's always periods in the economy where labor and material costs escalate rapidly. So
That's right.
I didn't know if we're projecting for that.
That's why we build that item in that council can vote to increase during those periods of time based on the construction. There's a technical term for it, but it's basically the construction price index. That's in our current ordinance. It's just never been implemented by the staff prior to my arrival here in 2018. So we decided, since we were doing the impact fee study, not to do the adjustments until we had the new numbers, and then we will start that on an annual basis. So schools, again, probably going to generate a lot of discussion from you all, a lot of questions. Essentially, again, school construction, school land, school buses, all based on incremental. The service area, the school impact fee will only apply to the south of the Broad service area, only south of the Broad. And here's the reason why. This is basically the 5-year student enrollment and 10-year projected student enrollment going forward for the school district. Again, I didn't have really any involvement in this particular item, but I have been following it. So this is district wide. These are the numbers for north of the Broad. As you can see, the red line is capacity. The gray line is needed capacity. The blue line is students. So actually, you're gaining more capacity as we go through time north of the Broad. South of the Broad, as you can see, in the next 3 years, student enrollment is going to exceed current capacity, and needed capacity will be much greater than that by 2021. So the growth will be above the capacity, the number of students. So what that equates to is simply going through everything. And again, the bond referendum was credited to the study, and there was a credit issue for that. The percentage was small because the amount of the bond referendum that is going toward adding capacity to the school system is a relative small percentage. So essentially, you get a maximum supportable fee at the bottom for single family of $3,600 for elementary school age, middle $2,200, high school $3,600. So that equates to a total fee of $9,535 per single family unit and $4,500 per multifamily unit. Again, this is based on the square footage, and that'll be in the total chart, but that's essentially the total amount. So total revenue over that 10-year period again will generate 88 or $89 million worth of projected revenue through the adoption of the impact fee. So this is the total chart for north of the Broad. As you can see, some fees are increasing totally. Some of the fees are decreasing for the commercial north of the Broad. South of the Broad, so this basically shows you the school impact fee for up to, is $4,500 up to 1,500 square foot house. And then it jumps to the $9,535. And it shows you the total increase per square footage of house and per commercial area with all of those fees added to the chart.
Eric, I assume you paused so I can ask a question.
I did. I think this chart is the one that does the most to show you what we're talking about. It shows the total impact of the impact fee. So anyway.
Eric, it appears to me that powers to be decide to penalize south of the Broad because of the growth in the south of the Broad. And I have some concerns because we have one county. We don't have south of Broad County and the north of Broad County. We have one county, school board that is, school capacity that is. So why are we, how can we talk to the powers of the be that made that decision? What's the next step for us? I don't think it's fair.
Well, the only way to do that would be to set up a situation, as I understand it. Again, the consultants would need to clarify what I'm getting ready to say, is that the only way to balance that out would be to potentially bus children from south of the Broad to the increased capacity for the schools in north of the Broad. And I'm not sure the school district and the school board would be willing to do that, or the parents would want that to occur. So essentially the service areas were set up on north of the Broad service area and south of the Broad service area, and the growth projections and the capital needs for those particular areas were decided on by the school board, and the consultants ran the numbers, and this is what they came up with based on the information provided to them by the school board and the school district officials.
Am I the only one?
It's not designed to penalize anyone necessarily. Councilmember Hamilton, it's going back to those three tests of what is the proportional share that's necessary for new growth coming into a particular area to bear its fair share of the burden for providing the infrastructure that's caused by that growth. So I certainly understand your point that it's the increases are significant, particularly as you look at the school impact fee.
Well, I'll jump in, Fred. I'll jump in. I would guess if this is just south of the Broad, everything collected stays south of the Broad.
That's correct. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It has to be spent. And the money collected has to be spent in the service area where it was collected, and it has to be expended within 3 years of collection.
And it has to be on building. It can't be on administration. It has to be on buildings.
It can't be on operations. It has to be on capital improvements. So buildings and school buses and things that are necessary, capital improvements that are necessary to operate the school.
So Eric, in the past, just to clarify, so the impact fees that we've been paying, say for the last 10 years or so, which has been at a higher rate than anywhere else in the county, all that money stayed in Bluffton, or was some of that money used to build schools north of the Broad? Well,
there's been no school impact fees, so none of that, there's no no school impact fee because that's new, but let's say Parks and Rec impact fees and the impact fees that you all have collected in the Bluffton Township have stayed in the service area for which it was collected. So yeah, like the improvements that were done a few years ago to the Buckwalter Rec Center, all that was done with impact fee money that was collected from growth in the Bluffton Township.
Okay, thank you.
And
We
Eric,
have to segregate those accounts. Yes, sir.
and you said it can't pay debt? Is that what I heard you say? That the impact fees cannot pay on debt?
If there's existing bonds or referendums, then you cannot, you can't charge someone a referendum amount on their taxes and then charge them an impact fee without giving them a credit for the referendum.
But
That's what I
can
was
you
saying.
use an impact fee to pay current debt?
I do not think it can be used for debt servicing. It can only be used for capital improvements. It can be used for debt servicing if the debt is a result of bonding for building construction or equipment.
Okay.
Mayor Salka, I could add to that.
Yeah.
I believe the traffic impact fees are used to pay the Bluffton Parkway debt service. So as an example,
what I've
that
always-
Yeah.
yeah, it can be used. And perhaps if I could just jump into Councilman Hamilton's question as well as some others. And I really appreciate Eric giving a robust overview of the fees. What we need to do as a team and as a staff is truly scrutinize the project list that ultimately is added up to derive and determine what those fee per square foot or all these different fees we see on this screen. The fees in Bluffton are higher because based upon the growth, there are more projects in Southern Beaufort County, but it's really important that the projects that you as a town council believe should be the priority should be on the project list. And please know that I have shared that with employees no longer with the county, but also Ms. Jacobs, Ashley Jacobs is well aware of the project list. We have talked about that as late as yesterday. So I think some takeaway from this is scrubbing the project list, putting it in writing and really scrutinizing what projects will be built in Bluffton with the utilization of the impact fees. And I know that Eric, you and I and your staff and my staff have a lot of work to do to figure that out. So just wanted to add that, Mayor Salka and Town Council.
No, that's good. I'm just confused on, maybe I'm gonna go back to the schools. A long time ago, we should have all committed to it for the impact fee. It was far less, but it also had a price per square foot on commercial. And here you don't have anything for commercial for schools. So that just, it's on my list to give to Mark. I think all of us need to write our list and let Mark compile a letter. But I want to make sure not just you listen to us, Eric, whoever it is we need to have a contact with. If that's county council, I hope we have the ability to speak to them.
Let me walk you through the schedule if you don't mind, and I think I'll explain that to you. So essentially what happened is we did a workshop with the Planning Commission on July 21st. Had a special call meeting in case they wanted to make a recommendation that night. Of course, they did not. So we met with them on Monday, August 3rd. Again, they made no recommendation to council. So last night or yesterday afternoon, the Natural Resources Committee met and they recommended approval of the school impact fee to the full council. And then they decided to hold a workshop on August 27th regarding the other fees that you see. So that would be an excellent time for you all to participate in that and to get us your comments so we can raise those issues. That will be with full council. Last night at the council meeting, they gave first reading to the school impact fee ordinance by title only. We will have the ordinances in place prior to second reading on the school impact fee. So basically, have here as the projected schedule with regards to the other fees is first reading by county council September 14th, second on the 28th, third reading and public hearing on October 12th. But once we get to the workshop, we'll know better what we're going to do with the remaining adoption schedule.
And nobody on county council mentioned price per square foot for commercial for school fees?
They did not, because again, they're following the recommendation of the Beaufort County School District that recommended the fee as proposed for south of the Broad.
Wow, I'm shocked. Okay. I mean, okay, it's nothing we can do.
But I mean, you can ask the question, and I'm happy to present that to the consultant to see what the logic or reasoning is behind that.
I mean, it was a request years ago from county council to all the municipalities to do a 3,000 per house and a very flat fee and $1 or $2.50 per square footage. And in other areas in the state where commercial pays for schools, you know, all the big industries, that was the way to do it. And we had a unanimous vote of council at that time. And
Yeah, and I think it goes back to the benefit and the proportional share test that you have to meet. I don't know that you can make a claim that a commercial development has a proportional share of causing school growth, but that's something that certainly put down so that I can ask that question to the consultant.
got it. Will do.
Mayor Stelzner, may I ask one more question before we move on?
Yeah.
If I could just point something out, I think it's important for town council and in your communication with county council. Eric, I think it's clear to you how many times we've asked for Bluffton Parkway 5B to be on this list. I know that we've sent some emails and know that there was some conversation one way and the other. But if September 14th is the first reading and the impact fees that are derived from project costs over time are determined, how will we add Bluffton Parkway 5 as one example? How will we add Bluffton Parkway 5B, determine the cost, calculate the fee, understand it all, go back and forth with each other, let alone Tischler buys before September 14th first reading, for us to understand the scope of the project, the cost of the impact, and understand all of this as it relates to the operating agreement?
What I would perceive happening with that is if we could have everything tidied up and have direction from council on August 27th, then we will slide the schedule on the first, second, and third reading accordingly once we get all, and not do those until we have everything in line for the impact fee to go forward. So we will not take it forward on the 14th. That's my projected time frame, and not necessarily council's or administration's time frame.
Eric.
Yes, sir.
I think one of the problems that we were facing with 5B is that it looks like it's a Bluffton initiative, and it's not. I mean, everybody's going to benefit from 5B, especially Hilton Head trying to get off of a hurricane. So, or just trying to alleviate some of 278 traffic. So we need to look at that as a region, really, instead, and not just Bluffton.
Oh no, I agree with you, and I'm not saying that it shouldn't be on there. I'm not implying that.
I know you haven't, but I'm thinking, I'm not. Trust me, I know you're not. I appreciate what you're doing, Eric, always, but I think it looked like Bluffton is the only one that's always saying, "What about 5B?"
Yeah. No, I certainly understand your point, and it's well taken. It could have been included and just didn't make it into the presentation slide. That's something I'm gonna have to work with your staff on over the next week or so, and go through the full study report with them to make sure that we have everything covered. One of the other big items, as you all might be aware, that we've had a lot of discussions about over the last couple of years since I've been here, is the signalization of some of the roads. So that money for signalization south of the Broad was added to that, and it's in the study. So 5B may be in there, I haven't looked at it in that amount of detail because I've been absorbing the process and other comments regarding the school impact fees, which obviously have generated a lot of questions from certain aspects of all of our communities.
Eric, it's the fee that most of our growth is going to use, and I would put that well above the bridge. I mean, if I don't want to be territorial, but if whoever did this thought the bridge needed more impact fees, they're going to use it from our growth, because I don't see a lot of new houses being built outside of our town limits or on Hilton Head. It's not a maybe, it's got to be on that list. And I don't know who told who or who overlooked a transportation road that's been on the penny. It's always been there, and the bridge is a new thing. So that bridge upsets me if 5B is not on there.
Yeah, I could tell you that, but I'd rather not.
I know, but I just want you to know how important there are projects on Hilton Head that are going to get paid for by our impact fees.
No, I agree. I understand.
And I'm tired of it.
I understand.
I'm sick of it. Not you. I love working with you, but
right.
I don't know who it was, but it needs to be on there before August 27th.
Yeah.
Without a letter from us.
Yeah, I understand. And I'll follow up on that tomorrow. Probably, in the morning, I'll probably touch base with Heather just to make sure that that we get a game plan together for us to discuss their review of the full study. And I'll get these presentations to you all in the morning as well, so that we can get to work on that and get cracking. Because again, we want this to be right. We want it to be fair and equitable. Again, it's all about proportional share and providing the needed infrastructure that's necessary as a result of the growth. So that is my commitment to you all. I will do my part to work with you all to get any deficiencies corrected and to the consultant in a timely manner.
And I think Mark is on it with maybe some other roads, but truly the health and safety of our region is west, not so much east. West is going to get everyone on, and Hardyville and Bluffton/Beaufort County have always worked well together, to the point that whole corridor was brought up by several of the council members on county council. We just gotta start looking west.
Yeah, I agree. And I've said that since I've been here. We can't continue tourism in Hilton Head and all the places in the county if people can't get from 95 to those points without sitting in traffic. They're not.
And we love the tourism, but we got to take care of the wild west. So thank you. Any other thoughts for Eric? If not, let's make sure Mark knows our questions that we said. I just wrote down my list.
Yeah, I have some.
Get that, Mark.
Mayor,
jump in, Fred.
I know I'm be laying out time here, but affordable housing has to be addressed for me. What did the county put in their budget for affordable housing this year?
They have not done that. Essentially, let me talk to you about that account on affordable housing. The county council funded $100,000 for covering impact fee waivers for affordable housing projects. Just in the last month or so, probably 6 weeks now, maybe 8 weeks ago, they approved potentially $61,000 in credits for the May River apartment expansion that's going on there off of Burnt Church Road, I believe it is. And so that would deplete the fund down to around $39,000 if that total fee is covered, that total credit is covered. But our council has made it known that they support affordable housing and doing what's necessary with the affordability issue with regards to impact fees. They would have to make a decision and vote to replenish that back up to $100,000 because it is not set up in the motion for the funding for that to be a recurring balance of $100,000 in that account. So that's basically the way that works. So they have not budgeted any new money at this time for affordable housing impact fee waivers that I'm aware of.
Okay. The other
That
question.
doesn't mean, but that doesn't mean that it's not possible. So I would tell you all, if you have projects that need impact fee waivers for affordable housing, then please get those to me so that I can begin the process of trying to see what the council's willing to do with covering those.
Okay, Mark, you're going to be on that, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Please invite me, Eric.
Okay. Now, earlier you told us about fees, but you didn't tell us when those fees would be excess, impact fees.
Say that one more time for me, if you don't mind.
Okay, when will those fees that are being collected be accessible or excess? Because you get in the earlier presentation you were giving us a lot of different fees, and then it follow-up. And then the second question to that is: are there any priority to how those fees will be dispersed?
Well, so essentially with regards to impact fee collections, they get collected when a building permit is requested and paid for, and then they have to be expended on the various projects based on the capital improvement plan that's approved by the county council within 3 years of allocation. So how did the determination on which projects go first and all of that, it's basically based on need, for lack of a better terminology, for us to fund the necessary improvements as a result of capital improvement plan. So there's no formula for impact fees that basically says, okay, when we get $100,000 in an account, we're going to spend it on this particular project. They may wait and let it accrue to the 3-year mark and then do a major project, or let a bond and use that for debt services as we did with Bluffton Parkway.
So am I hearing that if we have stuff that we need, that we would like to be considered, then we should put in a request now, so that if we wait 3 years, our request is at least.
Let me do this, Councilmember Hamilton. Let me get a better answer on that for you.
Okay.
Because I don't really know how we make a decision to do projects. So I will get a better answer on that for you and provide it to the Bluffton team there so that they can provide that answer to you all.
Okay.
Because I don't want to say something that I'm incorrect about, but I'll get a more definitive answer on how we determine which projects we're doing and follow up with you all on that answer.
Okay. All right. I have
Eric.
more, but Eric, I'll call you. I have more questions, but I don't want to. I want to give others a chance to get theirs, so I'll call you. Okay.
That sounds great.
All right. Okay.
Let me get.
Fred, just let us know your questions through Mark so we all will know, because it's all of interest to everyone.
Okay, I will. And I just don't. I know we're just getting started with our meeting. I don't want to keep us here, and I know others have questions. So I want to give everybody a chance. Thank you.
Well, on the other, I think Dan was jumping in. Did you have anything else, Dan?
Yeah, I was going to ask Eric, the $100,000 budget number for waiver of impact fees by the county. Again, so it's already gone essentially for the 2021 budget period. And have they actually spoken to the other areas of the county to just determine who's got stuff on the drawing board? In other words, we have projects on the drawing board. Somebody else may have projects on the drawing board. And so how do they derive about just at $100,000? Maybe it needs $150,000, $200,000. How do they derive that?
Yeah, again, the answer to that question is, and it's kind of two parts. Number one is, I wouldn't say that the $100,000 fund was just for the 2021 budget cycle. Okay, it was just $100,000 that were set aside. So if you all have an impact, if you have an affordability project, an affordable housing project that you need an impact fee waiver for, or want to discuss the process for doing that, please send that information to me so I can go through the process here to get it before our county council, so that we can decide whether or not we're going to add more money to the account during this budget year. So it's not by budget year. Second thing is that affordable housing issue, we know a lot about it, but we don't know everything about it. So we're trying to deal with how to get these affordable housing projects off the ground and make them viable and possible through, and one way is impact fee waivers. So we haven't really worked out that entire framework yet as to how the best way to assess those waiver projects and provide the funding for them and the process for them. That's something I'm kind of developing as we go through doing these waivers. So I'm kind of learning as I go, I guess, if you will, on how to do that. But I will tell you this, that I think the commitments there from our council to fund impact fee waivers for legitimate affordable housing projects that comply with the standards. And if you all have such things going on, please let me know about it, and I will make sure that we send it up the chain so that it can be reviewed and a decision be made about it. So I wouldn't get too disappointed that $61,000 of the 100 is gone. There's just no motion to replenish it at this point. That's something we need to consider down the road. So if you have stuff, please let me know and we'll deal with it on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you,
I
Eric.
have a question.
Yes.
Bridget?
Thank you, Mr. Greenwood, for your presentation. If possible, while we're on the conversation about affordable housing and thinking of providing equity, especially to those who are lacking on the affordable housing issue, can you take back or consideration be given from the county to look at how we can make impact fees for homes more affordable for those who are struggling and are low income? And an example is, for someone to pull a modular home or mobile home or whatever on their property, I believe the fee is like $5,000. I know there are residents though who struggle with that, and it used to be a waiver program where they could apply for that. I know a few people reached out to me and said that's no longer an option, that they were told. I don't know if there wasn't any funding or is it something they don't do anymore. But I know that would be something that would give a boost to those who are in need of that.
Yeah, let me address that for you. There is that possibility, and that still does exist. So I don't know who they spoke to, but if you all at the Bluffton level will tell anyone that has an impact fee question, I know the statute and the ordinance better than anyone because I deal with it so routinely. So please feel free to give them my name and contact information and tell them to contact me directly.
Okay.
They are not likely to get me on the initial call, but I will call them back and we will work out the situation, because I had a situation about 3 months ago in Hilton Head of the same issue, and they provided me their income statements and I was able to work it out so that they paid a reduced fee.
Okay. And aside from that waiver program, thank you for letting me know it's still available. Is it ever going to be consideration given to changing that fee from the $5,000, or is that just something that's always going to be the standard price, regardless of a person's income bracket?
For south of the Broad, it's about to be more than 5,000 if all of the fees I just showed you are going to be adopted.
Wow.
That's why we need to get our comments in, guys. To Mark, I just posted on chat because y'all can all see my questions and Mark can download those notes. So while it's fresh on your mind, I would suggest either using the chat or putting it in a text format to him, because August 27th is around the corner. And I think we should be at that workshop meeting if there's some items that we really want addressed just to support staff.
So essentially, let me share one other thing with you about affordability and the impact of impact fees on this particular issue. The Hilton Head Island Home Builders Association has been very involved in this process and have provided some comments. And just to create a little perspective for you, and I'm not saying this is accurate, I'm just telling you what they've provided from a mortgage person. It's basically the mortgage lender basically said, my rule of thumb is for every $1,000 you change the price of a loan, the payment increases by $8. So for an average size house with the fee, if this is accurate, it's going to change that monthly payment by about $128 per month.
Which is a lot of money to the level of affordability. I mean, I think $8 can keep someone from buying groceries.
It's $8 per $1,000 of fee. So
I know.
So our consultants have basically said from my housing affordability analysis conducted in the impact fee study, an average homeowner in the north will only see an increase of 0.1% in their monthly cost burden with the increase in impact fees. In the south, the cost of home ownership will increase the monthly burden by 0.8%, so less than 1%, and the cost of renting will increase by 0.4% monthly.
Okay. Any other questions for Eric? I think we got to get our list together and keep him in the loop on this.
So, so tomorrow I will email Heather the presentations that the consultant did with council yesterday, and email the school study and the full county study, just so that you have that available to you to review. And then Heather and I will talk tomorrow about a plan for us getting together to talk about the projects that are in the study.
And you'll confirm 5Bs on the list.
We'll confirm 5Bs are on the list, or create a process for making sure that it gets on the list. How about that?
I like the former, but I'll accept the latter. So,
Yeah, I hope it's
because
already
we're
on there, but if it's not, we'll get
Yeah.
it on there. So.
Okay, any other questions? This is a workshop and a presentation, and I so appreciate you spending the time. Eric, anything else that needs
Anytime.
to be said now? If not, just let us all know your questions when you ask them of Eric or Mark to ask of
Yeah,
Eric.
if I could do one additional thing before I exit, I always like to exit off. If anyone has any questions about anything, or if you have anyone that needs impact fee questions answered as a member of the public, my phone number is 843-441. Again, 843-441-6129.
Eric, one word before you go.
Yes, sir.
I watched the presentation yesterday, and you did really good tonight.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you.
We had a lot to do, Eric, so we got to move you on, but you're welcome to stay through the rest of the meeting.
I'm going to go have dinner if it's okay with you all. Y'all enjoy. Thank you very much.
Good. Thank you very much. Okay, we're on to formal items, and we've taken off item 1, so we're on to number 2, which is consideration of an ordinance authorizing town manager to execute and deliver an amendment to the easement agreement, providing a non-exclusive permanent access and utility easement to the Bluffton Township Fire District. And Heather, this is first reading. For some reason, I remember this last month. Maybe it was a workshop, but is it first reading?
Yes, it is.
You're up.
Sorry, it says, one moment. Sorry, computer's going slow here.
It thinks we should be off work.
Yep. Just trying to share my screen here. Okay, can you all see that now? Let's see.
Perfect.
Okay, so like you said, this is related to changes to the easement agreement for the Township Fire District for the New Riverside Fire Station. And this is first reading. So just a quick background. The town of Bluffton acquired the New Riverside parcel, and that included then a 3-acre upland piece that the Bluffton Township Fire District acquired adjacent to that barn parcel. And with that, that parcel was subject to certain easements that now, going through the process of master plans and development plan approvals, we needs to be adjusted and accommodate both the barn parcel, the town parcel, as well as the fire district's parcel. Again, going through this, the contemplated easements at the time included those for utilities, signage, landscaping, as well as that primary access easement, which is equally the center line between the town-owned parcel and that fire district-owned parcel. On February, this past year, Town Council, you all conditionally approved the New Riverside Village Master Plan, which is, and I'll have a map that shows this, but across the street there, that is affected by that access as well. That master plan includes that shift to that existing primary access point on New Riverside Road, moving it closer to the South Carolina Highway 46-170 roundabout. That shift requires the relocation of the existing easements to align with that new median cut, which places that access right away, on the town-owned property. So in order to access the fire station, we need to adjust the easement. Again, all of that was contemplated through those necessary utilities on their site development plans for that new station. And their construction contract includes the cost to install the access as well as the extension of sanitary sewer to the town-owned property. Moving forward, the town and the fire district must authorize the relocation of those existing easements and memorialize the provisions of those shared costs for that construction of the access road as well as the stormwater infrastructure. And all of that, I'll go into a little bit more detail, but is also included in your packets. Just going through what things are included, that comprehensive document that's in your attachments, that First Amendment to the Declaration of Easements, covenants and restrictions in there to highlight the things that are embodied in that document is ultimately that authorization of the relocation of that primary access, as well as the sign, utility, and landscape easements. It also includes the obligations of the fire district to construct the primary access, as well as those utilities that I just described. And like I said, I'll get to a map that shows where all of this is on the property. It further outlines the obligations for the town to share those costs, and those are outlined here. Staff worked closely with representatives from the fire district as well as the town engineering department. And I do believe that we have Chief Thompson as well as the deputy chief who are in the waiting room, so to speak, and are available to answer any questions as well. Further outlines, again, the sanitary sewer installation, as well as the extension of that. This was the existing plat here. So you'll see here's the traffic circle, Highway 46, and what was here. This shows the New Riverside Village Master Plan that was approved, and it shows the access right here. You can see that median cut, so it did have to shift. This is the draft easement relocation plan. So this shows what I just discussed as far as the different easements, things that need to be relocated. As you see the landscape, excuse me if I can get my mouse here to work, but there's below the buffer parcel label there is the sign and landscape easement, that center line. So, and you can see the barn right here, and this is the fire district property. Going through this exhibit outlines the infrastructure improvements and the reimbursement costs associated with each. So this is that drive that would be constructed on town-owned property for the barn. the fire district the fire station right here, and the sanitary sewer as part of the project. And I'm happy to answer any questions, go back to any of those exhibits. The proposed motion is here. And like I said, there are representatives from the fire district available to answer questions as well.
Great, Heather. Any questions of council to Heather or to, do you want the fire, can the fire district hear us? I guess you're watching us on Facebook. Do you have any questions of the fire district? And do you have any questions of Heather?
None from me, Mayor.
I don't hear any. If not, we'll move on first reading. Is there a motion to approve on first reading the ordinance authorizing the town manager to execute and deliver the amendment to the easement agreement, providing a non-exclusive permanent access and utility easement to the Bluffton Township Fire District over certain real property owned by the town of Bluffton, and authorizing the execution and recording of certain documents therewith?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, well, if you'd thank the fire district for sitting in a waiting room, we'd appreciate it. And excited for that whole area for those residents to come to life. Followed the formal items, we have 6 items on a consent agenda. Is there anything y'all would like removed from that? Hearing nothing, is there a motion to approve?
Wait.
Oh, yes.
Sorry, there's one more item on formal items.
Oh,
Right.
shoot. Am I just
Sorry.
running past the world? Yes, I'm sorry, Heather. Let's back up. The next item, I have to pass the baton to Fred, and I am recusing myself, but I'll read it. It's consideration on second reading and final reading, the ordinance authorizing a parcel exchange between the town of Bluffton and MFH land within the New Riverside area. And I have signed my recusal, so I'm going to cut off my video and mute, and I will let Fred.
Okay, Heather.
Okay. And I do have, we had invited the team from last time, the property owner, as well as the applicant, if they need to answer any questions as well, but I do not have any changes from first reading on this item. I can pull up the presentation that I presented last month, as well as the staff report, but there have been no changes since first reading.
Any questions from council? Okay. Now what do you want us to do, Heather?
I can pull up the motion if you'd like, or however much detail. Since you have no questions, I'm happy to pull up the motion.
Okay.
Just bear with me while I share my screen. And here's the motion on the screen for you, should you decide to approve.
Okay, I want everybody to look at the motion before I read it, see if you have any concerns. Okay, is there a motion to approve second reading of this ordinance authorizing the partial exchange between the town of Bluffton and MFH Land LLC for certain real property owned by the town of Bluffton within the New Riverside identified as R61003600032140000 and authorizing the execution and recording of certain documents therewith.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Oppose? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to consent agenda. There are 6 items on consent agenda. Anybody want anything pulled off? If not, is there a motion to approve the 6 items under our consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those are all passed. All very important information, so I urge everyone to click the links and read through those items. Ending, is there a motion to move into executive session for 2 items, personnel matters regarding appointments of boards, committees, and commissions? That's FOIA 3470A1, and contractual matters pertaining to the acquisition of real property in the Historic District, May River Road, and Buck Island Road, and that's FOIA 3470A2.
So move.
There's a second.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are in executive session.